and I'm taught a version of Christianity that doesn't accept that, right? So it forces me to I feel like an outsider because of that. So I've actually explored Christianity.
I feel like I'm a little kid again in a way, because I was someone for so long, and when I left my church, it's like there's like, now what?
Understanding
Who am I?
that Christianity is the colonizer's religion. Christianity is what white people forced on us after taking us, bringing us over, stealing us from our own country, bringing us over here.
Imagine being forced to choose between the breath in your lungs and the soul in your chest. For decades, a quiet revolution has been brewing behind the glamorous facade of Hollywood. We often hear about the cultural war between LGBTQ+ identity and religious institutions, a battleground where you are repeatedly told that you cannot exist as both queer and a person of faith. But what happens when the church door slams shut and your belief in the divine only grows stronger? Today, we are diving into the deeply personal, raw, and triumphant stories of 10 prominent gay actors. These men did not lose their faith when they lost their religion. Instead, they walked away from the pulpit, dismantled the man-made dogmas of their childhoods, and found an unshakable connection to God on their own terms. 1. Billy Porter. What if the very institution built to save your soul is actually the one trying to destroy it? For Billy Porter, surviving the pulpit was just the first step toward reclaiming his divine right to exist. Born and raised in a highly conservative, strict Pentecostal household in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Billy Porter's early life was defined by the church. He was a musical prodigy who sang in the choir, but as he grew to understand his sexuality, the very community that nurtured his talents turned on him. Church leaders explicitly told a young Porter that he was an abomination and would never be blessed by God. The psychological trauma was immense, but Porter refused to let human judgment dictate his spiritual worth. Instead of turning his back on the divine, Porter decoupled God from the institution. In his acclaimed memoir, he detailed how he realized that religion is a man-made construct designed for control, whereas true spirituality is a direct, celestial gift. Today, the Emmy, Tony, and Grammy-winning star lives a life fueled by radical self-love and deep spiritual devotion. Porter maintains that God is love, and by living authentically, he is honoring his creator more than any dogmatic sermon ever could. 2. David Archuleta. What happens when a childhood poster boy for a global religion realizes his existence is forbidden by the only faith he has ever known? David Archuleta chose truth over comfortable captivity. David Archuleta captured the heart of the world as the beloved 17-year-old runner-up on American Idol. Raised as a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, his entire identity was wrapped up in Mormon theology, even serving a 2-year mission in South America. But behind his angelic voice was a young man suffocating in silence, riddled with severe anxiety and suicidal ideation, pleading with a God he feared hated him. Ultimately, the breaking point came when Archuleta realized that trying to change his sexuality was slowly killing him. In his raw memoir, Devout, Losing My Faith to Find Myself, he chronicles his painful decision to step away from the LDS Church. For Archuleta, leaving Mormonism was not an act of abandoning God, but a desperate leap of faith to find him. He successfully deconstructed the toxic doctrines of his past, rebuilding a personalized, loving relationship with a creator who accepts him exactly as he is. 3. Luke Evans. Imagine knocking on doors to preach a gospel that actively condemns your own future. Luke Evans escaped a high-control religious community to build a temple of his own making. Growing up in a small mining village in the Rhymney Valley of South Wales, Hollywood star Luke Evans was raised as a devout Jehovah's Witness. Instead of playing with friends on Saturday mornings, young Luke wore a suit and tie, knocking on doors to spread his family's faith. But as he came to terms with his sexuality, he faced a terrifying reality. Under the strict rules of the Watchtower Society, being openly gay meant facing complete shunning and total isolation from his family. At just 17, Evans made the agonizing, brave decision to leave his home and his religion. In his memoir, Boy from the Valleys, he details the painful transition from a high-control religious group to the stages of London's West End and the silver screens of Hollywood. While Evans completely rejected the legalistic, exclusionary doctrines of the Jehovah's Witnesses, he did not abandon his inner spiritual compass. He transitioned his focus from religious compliance to a deeply quiet, personal spirituality, healing his wounds through art and self-acceptance. 4. Richard Chamberlain. How does an actor who became a global icon playing a Catholic priest reconcile his public role with his private, forbidden truth? Richard Chamberlain discovered that true divinity is quiet. Richard Chamberlain was the ultimate Hollywood heartthrob of the 1960s and 1980s, famously portraying Father Ralph de Bricquessart in the legendary miniseries The Thornbirds. Raised in a traditional Presbyterian environment, Chamberlain felt from an early age that the rigid, organized structure of Sunday school simply did not speak to his soul. Living in an era where being an openly gay leading man would destroy a career, Chamberlain spent decades keeping both his sexuality and his deepest beliefs private. Chamberlain eventually came out later in life, and with that disclosure came a beautiful revelation about his faith. He has always maintained that he has absolutely no desire to be part of any organized, human-led religious institution, viewing their earthly doctrines as inherently flawed and exclusionary. Instead, Chamberlain developed a deeply mystical, highly personal spiritual life. For him, God is an internal, comforting presence that requires no church validation, a quiet, sacred relationship that has guided him through a long, brilliant life. 5. Matt Bomer. Can you survive a childhood where secular television is banned, only to become a Hollywood star who refuses to let fundamentalist judgment dictate your relationship with the divine? Matt Bomer grew up in a highly conservative, born-again Christian household in Texas. His upbringing was strict, shelter-style fundamentalism, where the secular world was viewed with intense suspicion, and his eventual coming out resulted in a painful, multi-year period of silence from his beloved family. The clash between his family's dogmatic Christian beliefs and his reality as a gay man was deeply painful, threatening to shatter his sense of self-worth. Rather than allowing religious trauma to turn him into an atheist, Bomer took the path of spiritual deconstruction. He flatly rejected the exclusionary, judgmental, and fire and brimstone theology of his youth. Yet, Bomer consistently speaks about how his faith remains a central anchor in his life. He continues to pray, holds a profound belief in a loving, merciful God, and chooses to focus on the grace of the divine rather than the human prejudices shouted from traditional pulpits. 6. Titus Burgess. What do you do when the sacred music you love is housed in an institution that demands you slice away your humanity to belong? Titus Burgess kept the music and left the dogma. Before he was a celebrated Emmy-nominated star of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Titus Burgess was a young man deeply embedded in the church culture of Georgia. Blessed with a breathtaking, soul-stirring vocal range, Burgess actually served as a music minister in a conservative congregation. However, the spiritual cognitive dissonance of leading worship in an environment that actively preached against his identity as a gay man eventually became an unsustainable, toxic burden. Burgess ultimately walked away from the politics and judgment of institutional church doors, but he refused to leave his faith behind. He kept the gospel music, the spiritual connection, and his personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Burgess openly identifies as a spiritual person and a believer, frequently recording and performing sacred music. For Burgess, worship is not about sitting in a pew under the judgmental gaze of a preacher. It is a direct, musical conversation between his soul and a loving God. 7. Jared Carmichael. Is it possible to stand on a comedy stage, completely strip yourself of secrets, and have an honest, public argument with God? Jared Carmichael proved that faith can handle your rawest questions. Jared Carmichael shocked and moved audiences with his deeply personal, Emmy-winning stand-up special Rothaniel, where he came out to the world and laid bare the secrets of his family history. Raised in a highly religious Southern home, Carmichael's developmental years were saturated in traditional Christian teachings. Coming out meant confronting the immense, heavy friction between the Black church's historic stance on homosexuality and his necessity to live an authentic, unburdened life. Carmichael's response to this friction was not to run away from God, but to confront him with absolute honesty. His work frequently features raw, unvarnished monologues addressed directly to the Almighty. He rejects the church's traditional moralizing and hypocrisy, refusing to let earthly pastors act as gatekeepers to his soul. By keeping his dialogue with God completely transparent and unfiltered, Carmichael bypassed institutional judgment, finding a unique spiritual peace rooted in truth rather than performance. 8. Colton Haynes. When the pressures of Hollywood fame collide with a conservative religious upbringing, where do you turn? Colton Haynes found his savior not in a church, but in silent prayer. Colton Haynes, famous for his roles in Teen Wolf and Arrow, grew up in a traditional Midwestern environment where religious expectations cast a long shadow. The pressure to conform to a heteronormative conservative ideal while harboring his true identity led to years of severe anxiety, substance abuse, and physical illness. The traditional religious structures around him offered no comfort, instead compounding his feelings of shame and unworthiness. When Haynes finally came out and began his journey of recovery, he made a conscious choice to leave behind the dogmas of his youth. However, he did not abandon his belief in a higher power. Haynes has been incredibly vocal about how a personal practice of prayer and a quiet, direct connection with God played a pivotal role in saving his life during his darkest moments of despair. By stripping away church expectations, he discovered a God of healing and unconditional grace. 9. Andrew Scott. How does a gay boy from Dublin forgive an institution that made him feel invisible? Andrew Scott used the very concepts taught by his oppressors to set himself free. Before he captured global attention as the mesmerizingly complex hot priest in the hit series Fleabag, Andrew Scott was a young boy navigating the conservative, heavily Catholic environment of Dublin, Ireland. Growing up gay under the shadow of the Vatican's influence meant living with a constant, background hum of shame. The Catholic Church's dogmatic stance on homosexuality left deep, emotional scars that Scott had to spend years processing and dismantling. Scott completely emancipated himself from the institutional Roman Catholic Church, rejecting its authority over his morality. However, his relationship with the spiritual did not die. It evolved. In a brilliant twist of spiritual maturity, Scott speaks of using the profound concept of forgiveness, a value he initially learned from his Catholic upbringing, to forgive the church itself for the damage it caused. By releasing the bitterness, Scott retained a beautiful, artistic, and deeply humanistic connection to the divine mysteries of life. 10. Wilson Cruz. When your own family rejects you in the name of religion, how do you keep your grip on God? Wilson Cruz survived the streets by clinging to a higher love. Wilson Cruz, the groundbreaking star of My So-Called Life and Star Trek Discovery, faced a devastating trial when he came out to his father at 19. Driven by rigid, traditional Roman Catholic beliefs, his father kicked him out, leaving a young Cruz to experience a terrifying period of homelessness. It would have been easy, even expected, for Cruz to reject the concept of God entirely after such a deeply traumatic, religiously motivated rejection. Instead, Cruz made a powerful, life-saving distinction. He realized that his father's prejudice belonged to human frailty and church culture, not to the divine. He clung to his faith in God as a shield, believing that his Creator loved him and had a purpose for his life. Cruz survived those dark streets, reconciled with his family years later, and remains a passionate, faithful advocate who consistently proves that your spiritual worth is defined by God, not by a congregation. The journeys of these 10 extraordinary actors prove a profound truth. The human spirit cannot be easily caged by earthly dogmas. By walking away from the church, they did not lose their way. Instead, they cleared the path to find a God who is vastly larger, infinitely more loving, and far more compassionate than any brick-and-mortar institution could ever contain. Their lives remind us that faith is not about conformity. It is about the courage to be exactly who you were created to be. Which of these journeys resonated with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and join our community as we continue exploring untold stories.